I'm Mo, and yes, I'm a Yarny, and I hope you're having a wonderful Friday. Today we're going to talk about fusion, and you're probably wondering what is fusion? Well, fusion is when you mix yarn crafts together. Yes, everything has to do with yarn, since I'm a Yarny. Well, not some of it, but we're going to talk about crocheting and latch hooking, crocheting and quilting, and crocheting and embroidering. And yes, you can do those together. Um, the first thing I'm going to show you is a rug that I made. Um, and I was going to wash it beforehand, but then I forgot. But it's one that we use daily. So here it is. So I crocheted the whole middle section. And then around the edge where it's nice and fuzzy and fluffy is all done in latch hook. So the way I did it is after I got done doing the crocheting part, I crocheted a grid section, and I did the single layers, but then I went back over them to make it nice and fat so I'd have room to do the latch hook part, which made the rug nice and thick. This is done. The yarn I used for this is a 5-weight, and I'm pretty sure it was a Thick and Quick, Lion Brand Thick and Quick, just in the color gray. I think it was gray slate it was called. And then just a white. The white is the Red Heart Super Saver in the white. So this is a fusion here where you mix two together. And this was all done with scrap yarn because I like to make rugs when I have a lot of scrap yarn left over. I believe I bought this to make a blanket, and I had it left over, and I wondered what I could do with it. So this is what I did with it. And I've made several rugs, not just like this one, but I like to make thick ones too. Like I just started this one, and it's just made by crocheting 3 strands together. And they do get really thick and chunky, and wherever you have high traffic areas and people like to leave their shoes or something, put them right under there. Okay. And we're also going to talk about embroidering and crocheting. And you can mix embroidering with quilting. um, so here's something I've been working on for a while. You can just buy these yeah, I have one ready up here. You buy these, or you can make them yourself, where they have the prints on them. They're printed. They make the crafts easy these days, really easy. I remember my grandmother would trace things onto hers, and then she would embroider on it. Then you could either cut these apart, the designs. My plan is to put them into a block, and then I have a coordinating fabric to go around it. It's purple with butterflies. I don't know if you could see the butterflies or not, but that's what it's for. And then I plan on putting a lacy edge around it with a cute yarn color. That's what I plan to do with that. And then let's talk about the other part of fusion is actually quilting with yarn. So what you do is make your squares, and nowadays they actually sell the squares pre-cut too. But it's good to check the gauge on them and make sure that they are square. And then what I like to do is use the fusible webbing, or use the batting that also has, this one has a fusible lining, and they usually give you the instructions. Just make sure you follow them. And then you have less sewing to do. You don't have to do any sewing with these squares. And then you don't end up with frayed edges that like to pop out. And you don't even have to you don't have to quilt it if you don't want to. But I do like the look of the square being quilted, which is not hard either. You just do, if you would draw a line from corner to corner, you could hand sew it or machine sew it, or just leave it how it is, because with when you use the lining that with the webbing, they just stick together, so they're not going to move. You don't have to worry about that. So I did this one with the lining. You can see it here. I didn't do the other side, but I did one side. So it holds them together and keeps everything nice and neat. So you have nice straight edges. And this is a fabric I had picked out for my grandkids, the Ninja Turtles. And the way that you put them together, I have a tapestry needle, an upholstery needle. I don't know if you can see that, but it has a big enough eye on it that you can just use your yarn right through it. So I have a coordinating yarn I'm going to use for that, and I'm going to double it. And I'm going to double it for a reason, because I want to cover the edge of it as far as I can. So I'm just going to do that. I already have it threaded just to save a little bit of time. And you don't even need a fancy stitch. What you're going to use is the whip stitch. We're just going to put a little knot on the end of here. And you don't want a big knot that's going to leave a big lump on the end. My fingers are cold, so they don't want to move today. Okay. So I like to hide my knots inside the corner. With this one, I put pins in it because I didn't fuse it. So this one's going to be stubborn. You just want to keep your edges straight and keep, and if you need to, you could go through and mark every 1/8 to 1/4 inch to take your yarn through, so you don't get any gaps, because you want to be able to cover all the edges there. So here's one that I did already. Let me get this one out of the way so you can see I used the pink on this one. And you're just going to go keep it even. This one's feels a little heavier. But that's what you want to do for your first row, is just go straight across the row with a whip stitch. And go around all four of the sides with it. And that's going to give you the edge, and you're going to be able to get your crochet hook through that. Then for your first row, you're going to put your hook through, and you're going to do a single crochet along the whole edge. You're just going to single crochet around the whole edge, and then the second row you're going to do whatever stitch you would like to do, whatever decorative stitch you would like. I like to use some eyelet stitches to give a little space in between. So then once you get the stitches done that you want to do, then when you get enough squares, however big you want to make your quilt, then you would take those two pieces and then you would stitch them together, just like you would do an Afghan. If you're putting Afghan squares together, I like to use slip stitches sometimes, or you could just sew them with the mattress stitch or just a whip stitch, putting them together. But it's something different you could try, and it's a lot of fun. But if you could give that a try, something different. There's also different things you could do. They sell these bags at the store. I've had this one for a while, but if you want to try on these, I just embroidered my name on this one. And then across the top of it, I plan on doing the same thing I did around the edge of this. I'm going to do some crocheting, and I'm going to crochet over the handles just to give it a little more interest to it. So that's fusing some things together there. But yeah, today's going to be a little short, but every Friday I'm going to try to bring a new interesting aspect to crocheting. It's not just what your grandmothers used to do. My grandmother's crocheted and quilted, and they would probably think this is weird what I'm doing here, because my grandmothers and my great grandmother were hand quilters. You had to do everything by hand. Don't use your sewing machine. And they did the tiny little stitches, but they did do the if I can put a picture up, I will put one of my grandma's quilt, which is a collaboration of my mother's and my great grandmother's and my grandma's, because my mother had embroidered the state flowers, and then my great grandmother had pieced it together. She took the squares that were embroidered and put them into the quilt, and then my grandmother quilted the quilt, and I still have that quilt. And that's why my mother could no longer do those things after a while, because she went blind. It was nice to have that. So I come from a long line of crafty women, but they had to do it a certain way. But there's new ways to do things, and there's new crafts you can follow, and there's also, you can do the latch hooking, but there's also weaving. They have new ways to weave that are really fun. But just thank you for joining me today, and if you think fusion is something you'd like to try, there are a lot of people on YouTube that do the fusion also. If you want to look up quilting and crochet, you will find some of the fusion people that do them together. I haven't seen anyone doing the crochet and latch hooking, but there might be. I just haven't looked. But thank you for joining me today, and hope you have a wonderful weekend. And I'll probably see you again on Tuesday. But just think about something you're thankful for today, and maybe encourage other people. And just thank you for joining me.